What do you think? I mean, what if you were Manny or Freddie? What would you be worried about the most? I mean, what are you watching out for from Floyd?
Well, I'd definitely be watching out for his a counter right hand. And I mean, he's going to try to nail him with that hook, that check hook that he's got. But I think Floyd's going to go in there and try to establish that. They're going to say, look, everybody hits Manny with counter right hands. You just missed. I said that at the end when I looked at your message. You weren't on the phone. But Marquez had a lot of success with Manny throwing that counter right hand. So I would definitely say that was the thing that I think when Manny started his training, he actually started about 5 weeks early. He was down south. And when a guy does that, instead of going out and doing the road work and all that stuff, because Manny stays in good shape. I mean, I was down with him January of 2014 when he scuba dives, and I was scuba diving with him. But he plays basketball every day for hours. He stays in good shape. So if you got the biggest fight of your career coming up, and instead of doing a 2-month training program, you're going to say, well, I'm going to do a 3-month training camp. Well, maybe the first month you work on technical stuff. You work on cutting the ring off. You work on trying to avoid that counter right hand. And I think that's going to be a big weapon for Floyd. And also, I think a big thing that they're going to have to do is actually be able to cut the ring off and make them fight. Because, like I said, I really think the guy that's more successful at imposing their way of fighting on the other guy is going to win that fight. If Manny can get in his face, throw a lot of punches, and be the old Manny where he's coming at you with angles, with speed, and a bit of power, that's going to fluster Floyd. And Floyd tends to get in that defensive mode a little bit too much sometimes. And Manny can steal a decision. I think it's going to be tough for Manny to knock Floyd out. But if he lets Floyd work those, actually moving around the ring a lot, and then countering them, then I think it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be difficult for Manny. So he's going to have to cut down on the movement. He's going to have to watch his right hand. But another thing I think Floyd can do and do successfully is I think he can lead the dance. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage on Manny. And I mean, at times where he can sit out there and he can use a fast jab, and he could probably be successful being the lead, show him something different. I think you're going to see when I watch that Canelo fight. A lot of people said Canelo's bigger. This is a fight that's a little worrisome for Floyd. He came out in the first 15 seconds, and I think the first time Canelo went to throw a punch, he didn't throw a punch, he feinted, and Floyd moved his head and parried the feint, which it never came. The punch never came, and I said, you know what? Floyd is going to be tough to hit tonight. He is on. I think when he thinks defensively first, he is really, really tough to beat. If he goes out there and he fights Manny the way he fought Cotto, which I thought was a pretty exciting fight for Floyd's fight, Manny's got a better chance. And, of course, Manny wants that. Manny wants to sit there and trade with him a little bit. But I don't know if Floyd's going to do that. I think Floyd's going to do what Floyd does best, and he's going to try to move. And if his legs are good, which I don't expect him not to be. I know Freddie's been saying for a couple of years he doesn't have any legs. Well, he sure did against Alvarez. I mean, he looked great for the first 10 rounds. He puts them all in the bank, and then he kind of cruises at the end. But, yeah, it's one of those situations where we'll see if Manny is really aggressive. And like I said, when I talked to Shane Mosley a few years ago, he said, I said, hey, who's the bigger hitter? And he said, actually, Floyd hits pretty hard. He doesn't get the knockouts, but he hits pretty hard. He goes, they hit kind of the same as far as, power-wise. But the reason he doesn't get the knockouts is because you're going to have to put 3, 4, 5 of them together,
right?
And he's not doing that. Floyd's a 1, 2, or 3 guy. So he's not out there to knock guys out. I did an interview with Ronnie Nathaniels, and they were one of the questions I had to category guys, the speed, the power, and all that. It was about 7 different categories. One of them was killer instinct, and he goes, well, how would you rate Floyd? I said, well, killer instinct-wise, maybe a C or a C minus, but I said he's not out there on a hunting trip.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there boxing these guys. But I said, you want to see a bit of killer instinct? I said, if Manny has a real good 6 out of the first 9 rounds, and Floyd needs some rounds, or he needs a possible knockdown or a knockout, I think you're going to see a lot more killer instinct than Floyd Mayweather, because he's going to worry about that going.
Mm-hmm.
But I said he never has to worry about it, because he banks them. Even the first Staheli fight, where a lot of fans say he lost the fight, I don't think he did. I think the scorecards were pretty. I think 2 of them were 4 points and 1 was 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the correct score.
Mm-hmm.
Floyd went out there and won the early rounds, and then Staheli gave him some problems, and they split the last 8 rounds. And people were saying, and of course, Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley, they tend to be not so good judges sometimes,
Yeah.
including Harold Letterman. And of course, the fans hear this and say, "Oh yeah, Castillo got screwed." I said, "Well, watch it close, and I don't think he got screwed."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Manny's going to have to watch that right hand, because I think Floyd's going to try to establish his power, because he doesn't want Manny walking through him like a hot knife through butter.
Right.
And then, of course, he's going to have to handle his movement. But he wants him on the ropes. I think Manny wants him on the ropes. And another thing I mentioned in an earlier interview, if Manny is having problems with his legs, a lot of people are saying, oh, Manny's got to go out there and throw nearly 1,000 punches to win the fight. Well, you can take a few rounds off. You go out there and throw 70 or 80 in the first couple of rounds, and then say, okay, now I'm going to take the 3rd round off, because I know I can't do this for 12 rounds.
Right.
So you go out there, and instead of leading, you start feinting. And Floyd, when you start feinting, Floyd's going to be looked to counter, and now you take that step backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And you try to take a minute off the clock, or a minute and a half, and then you make Floyd lead a little bit. And you might only throw 20 or 30 punches, but I don't think they're going to do that, just because Manny's an entertainer. And Freddie's a real aggressive trainer. He wants guys to go out there and throw punches.
Yeah.
I mean, tactically, if my guy's legs are messed up, I say, look, let's try to win 7 or 8 rounds. Let's try to have a real good 8 rounds where you put 75 to 85 punches in, and then if you only put 20 punches around and you're physically walking around and you're moving a little bit just to get away from them, those other 4 rounds, don't worry about it. But the problem is the price that people are paying for those tickets. If Manny started doing that, and it starts stinking the joint out because Floyd isn't closing the distance, he's not being aggressive, and all of a sudden you see 2 guys standing there and nothing's happening, and you're going to hear a lot of boos saying, hey, wait a minute, I just spent $25,000 for a ticket,
Yeah.
and I'm still 3/4 of the way up the stadium, and these guys are standing there and they're doing nothing.
Right.
So, like I said, I don't expect that, but if you're there to win, I mean, sometimes it's not going to be the most fan-friendly fight. And to me, I tell Manny, I say, look, Manny, the hype is so big, it doesn't matter what you do. Here's the situation. If you win the fight, it's going to be a hell of a lot more exciting than if Floyd wins it.
Right.
However you win it, whether you stop him, whatever you win that fight, it's going to be, and I really think that's the truth. I think if Floyd is on and Manny isn't on, and Floyd wins 10 out of 12 rounds, I think people are going to walk away going, Jesus Christ, I spent that kind of money for that. That was the fight of the century. I'm never going to another fight again. My ass is really sore.
Right.
My wallet is gone. But the closer that fight is, and if it goes into the 11th and 12th round, and they're saying, look, I've got it 5 rounds each, and there's been no knockdowns, all of a sudden people are sitting on the edge of their seat saying this is a pretty good fight.
Mm-hmm.
And if Manny could pull the upset, then a lot of people are going to say this was a very good fight, even if it's controversial.